Welcome to The Tea with Martha, where we spill the tea on the untold truths and real struggles of entrepreneurship. I'm Martha Pachow, a fellow business owner who's learned the ins and outs of business the hard way. Get ready for unfiltered discussions on the highs, lows, and messy realities of entrepreneurship. It's time to spill the tea and vent it out with us.
Well, welcome to The Tea, Jill and Mary, the dynamic duo.
The tea.
Hello.
Pinkies
up.
Ow, we're about to spill it.
Well, welcome. I'm so glad you guys made the time. Thank you so much. I think my listeners are going to be in for a treat. So, are you ready, ladies?
Oh, we were born ready.
Buckle up.
Ready?
So, spill the tea with us and just tell us kind of a little bit of your business and where we started, where we're at, and then we'll get hotter and hotter.
Then we'll get
Piping hot tea.
So we are the co-founders of a company called Girls Mentorship. We teach life and personal development skills to teen and tween girls. And it was something that was really dropped into our lap in 2020. We joke that we're almost 4 years old. However, life has really, I think, set us both up for this over the last 36 to 40 years, really, in terms of like what we were meant to do.
And your experience now, I'm sure you look back, you're like, oh, now I get it.
That's why.
That's why
it happened for me. Yeah, 100%. So we have really honed in on what our skills and our passion and where we want the mission of the business to go within the last couple of years. And we are your resident summer camp ladies. So we get girls.
As a teen mom.
You know it. You got boys. We opened up boys this summer. We get the most amount of time with girls in the summer. They don't have other commitments as in sports or school. So we could get them for a solid 40-hour chunk to talk about confidence, self-esteem, self-image, respect, boundaries, values, all of these things that at 36 years old and 37 years old, we still struggle with, right? If we weren't taught those things, we don't have the foundation for what they look like. We're still floundering the older and older we get. It's not like we just come into ourselves one day and we're like easy breezy, beautiful, confident.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
We go to Sephora and just, hi, do you have that makeup
Isn't
foundation?
that in your confidence aisle? Look at me. I just see a
look at
little
me.
glimmer. I'm already shining.
Duh. And the only thing I'm going to add in that is, no, that's true. The only thing I want to add is this type of work has helped us in business. So it is truly the foundation of what we've built our business on is having, being able, especially in a partnership, to have a language that we share, which allows us to maintain really strong integrity with ourselves in our partnership, but also who we want to be for the world.
Yes. So good. I think it's so important, right? I think often we underestimate it's who we are that shows up in partnerships, shows up in business. And we can't build this great thing and have this impact if we haven't built this strong foundation like you were talking about. And yes, life happens to everyone. What we do with it, though, is very different. And so I think what you're doing is so amazing. And it's such a gift to be able to give this generation, particularly because of the nuances nowadays are different than when we were growing up, right?
100%.
High school was different. And was it tough for us?
Yes.
Right. But I feel like it just looks so different. And so it's more isolating. And there's so many more, everyone uses the word bullying, but it is a thing socially and online. And they hide behind a screen and not even having those social skills, let alone things that happen at home and just all the burdens that our young ladies are contending with, and of course boys. And I know you guys are going to implement that this year, so that's super exciting. I just love this story. Obviously, I love you guys, and I think so highly of you because it's good work and it's hard work, and even making it a business. So let's talk about the business.
Ooh.
How has that been, and kind of maybe what's one of the biggest struggles or obstacles you guys have come across, and how have you overcame that?
Oh man, I feel like we can probably share a couple different struggles, but turning a passion into a business it's challenging because you want to make money, but you also want to serve.
Yes.
So, we have a heart of gold. We both do. And we're like, free. We want to just give it away. And we've had to learn, oh my gosh, free is not going to keep the lights on in our house.
Or the work going.
So when we say the word mentorship, we've come up against the having to retrain people that you have to pay for our service.
Yes.
Mentorship, yes, can equal free as an equal energy exchange. I'm going to give you experience for coaching, guiding you, whatever that is. So we've had to, especially working with kids, people want something for a low cost and they want it for free. So we've really had to find our value in saying what we have to offer is worth the price. Really, if you take care of it now, our hope is that in the long run, you're going to save yourself time, effort, energy, therapy bills, God knows what. Because we are two walking testaments of that we put way too much money into our 20s, late 20s, redoing and undoing the things that we wish we would have had these skills a lot sooner. So I think that's our first hurdle is figuring out or retraining our demographic, our parents that we work with, that mentorship doesn't always equal free.
And I would say to that end, our second hurdle is really having people understand the importance of this work at this age, right? Because when we hit a wall at 25, 26, 27, we turn around and we're like, oh my God, it's because the programming my parents gave me and I do this wrong and I do that wrong. People don't realize it until they're on their own and they're hitting these roadblocks and they're falling down and they don't know how to pick themselves back up. And a lot of, I would say, millennials and Gen Xers have never put personal growth and development work into their life. So they don't understand why it's important for them to do. They don't have an inclination as to why it's important to get their kids involved in it because they don't see the value.
Right.
Until it's an emergency, until it's a 911 where it's like, oh my God, fix her. She's broken. Help.
Nothing is working.
Nothing is working.
Tried all these things.
She's done therapy. She doesn't like it. She's depressed. She's on medication. She's this. And it's like, damn, you could have stopped this a year ago when the signs started, but you didn't have the self-awareness to understand where she was going downhill. Yeah. Because you don't have the self-awareness in yourself to understand where you're self-sabotaging.
Oh, preach, girl. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is. I think the thing as parents, it's so hard, but our children, whether we like to admit it or not, right, are a reflection. And so because we have blind spots and we want what's best, but we have these loops we continue to live out, and how do we break that? And the work starts in us. Just like I go back to this, the when my business skyrocketed was when I worked on myself.
You want to talk about preaching?
I mean, that's the truth, right? And so when we marry that in our family,
agree.
Absolutely. Goodness. And I just want to pause and go back to your first hurdle. And I think that is so applicable to all our businesses.
Right.
We start with this passion, right? We want to, whether you have a brick and mortar coffee shop or you are a service, my business is a service and I serve children, and it is a very heart-centered business. And I learned early on, or maybe a few years in, especially when I operated out of my home, it was very like, oh, I can't charge, they're because they come
struggling.
They're struggling.
Yeah. They're trying to make ends meet.
They're trying to, because they tell you these stories.
I just want to
help. I want to help. And
the
all these things. And then it was like, okay. And I think anybody that's been in business or alive for that matter, it comes a point where you need to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, well, I remember I had someone tell me, when people don't pay you, it's not for you. Think of it as they're stealing from your children. And that's all it took for me to realize, oh, that's true. I am trying to provide for my family.
Right.
and they aren't stealing from me. Like, I'm not going to go get nails, or I may not, but I actually, like, I need to keep the lights on in my house, and I need to feed my children. I need to buy, they need diapers. And I mean, my kids were little, and I was waking up early. I mean, I was working 14-hour days, right? I was getting ready before my kids arrived at 7 a.m., prepping meals and the day activities, and worked all day with kids, and then had to do home
and then had to do your own family.
Yeah. So anyway, it just became this like monumental load, and then people didn't appreciate my hard work. Like, what? Right. And so, and that applies to everything, right? It wasn't only me. I mean, we can go down the list of different businesses where we are wearing all the hats, doing all the things. And if there is no margin, I always tell my team now, there is no mission. Ooh. We are here to serve and help. Yeah. But guess what? I will be here, and I'm also allowing others to treat me in a way when I don't value myself, right? Because then
you're telling them how to.
Yes. I had mamas coming in with nails done, and they just got their hair done.
Look at those bosses. What kind of car are they driving? But they can't pay their bill.
Or the like,
right? Or the like, hey, thank you. I get to go have me time, and you're like, what's that?
Yes.
What's that?
And you know what? That's great. But just pay your bill. Yeah. Like, I am taking care of your child, and then you get later on in life, right? Like, that's early years. Yep. And so I can imagine that translating into this such a pivotal time in a young woman's life, in a young man's life, where they've got so much happening. And as parents, sometimes, actually often, we really can't help our children. We need to call in the reinforcement.
Amen.
Because, nobody's a prophet in their own land. It's really hard as parents to, like, we have friends sometimes, I'm like, and I'm like, I can say the same thing you just told me.
It's community, right? Yeah. It says the age-old adage is it takes a village.
Yeah. It does.
And we've been very isolated over the last, you said it earlier, we've been very isolated as individuals and families over the last, I would say, 20 years. And we've stopped leaning on our village. Yeah. We've stopped leaning on other people to pour into our
kids. I also think it goes to people's ego. Like, I can do it all. And like, look at what we did with, it's like,
right.
They're like
it's my badge of honor.
It's my badge of honor.
Look
at this. Yeah. And now, I mean, we love when families are like, we have a team of people. We have the doctors, we have the therapists, we have the mentors, we have the teachers, we have the We're like, yes, you need that to raise a child.
I didn't even think we were going to go here, but I'm going to just, in spirit of this, what you just said.
The tea is getting hot.
Oh, so I'm a big proponent of mentoring and coaches. I'm like, that's just literally changed my entire life.
Yeah.
And therefore my family's life, right?
Yeah.
But I did it in professional or personal development or faith-based. And I thought, okay, last year I thought my word for the year last year was intentional. And so I thought, this intentionality that I've put into the thing I've built, I need to pivot into my family. We got a family coach.
Cool.
And we've been working with her. Yeah, we've been working with Tracy. She's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I thought, she works with individuals. We work together as a family every couple sessions, and then individually specifically for my teams, right? And she'll just get down with like whatever they were dealing with. And so it's one-on-one with them, whatever they want to talk about, work on. And the irony is now I go see her more often, I think, than my kids. We started, it's the mirror. Yeah. You start like, okay, what have I done? Or what do I need to do differently? How do I show up? Because I am having a hard time breaking these loops that I've been playing and circling all my life. Yeah. And so we want these different results, but we keep unconsciously doing the same.
Unconsciously. Well, I think that's the asterisk, right? You have to be open enough to then be aware enough to then be willing to change what those loops are. And I think that's where the buck stops with so many families, because we're in a niche, not in business, but in life, right? We've poured into ourselves in personal growth and development. And that's a very small percentage of people who are willing to look in that mirror and say, how do I change? How do I change this? Because what I see, I don't like. People aren't like that. You go outside into the real world, people have their blinders on, their heads are down. They're not willing to change anything.
It's hard.
It is hard.
And you know what?
It's confronting.
It is the hardest thing to look to look in the mirror, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I thought I was wonderful.
Right. Or I do feel like people, we do say, well, I'm a good person.
Yeah, I meant well.
And I do good, right? And it's like, here's the list of why I am good. But I think there's always, like, we always say, like, we will never arrive. And that allows us to constantly be a learner, to constantly be a student, to be open to other people pouring into us personally, professionally. And that's what's going to move the needle forward. That's why you're seeing big leaps and gains in your business, in your personal life. If we can have that mindset for ourselves to then give that to our children, man.
The children you're working with, the children
Man,
we're working
yes.
with, it's contrast, right? Because we know what we were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to see the new version of us that isn't arrived yet, that still needs polishing, that still needs breaking down, that still needs molting.
And I think in business, if we were to shift that, like, this conversation to our business, we have really embraced saying, like, we want to make a lot of money. Because a lot of money is going to allow us to make more impact. And how then can we say, we've done this, and now it's like we want to then turn around and help other young girls who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to grow a business, who want to make an impact for this world. Like, we want to give that to them, but we want to go through the fire first to figure it out, to say, okay, here's what we did. Here's what you're not going to do, so that we can constantly keep mentoring girls and bringing them up so they can see what's possible for themselves. But, like, we've like wrestled with business for so long of, like, gosh, it's hard. And we finally looked at each other this year and we were like, how do we actually make it easier?
Yes.
Or
And
change the verbiage from hard to challenging, because hard is negative connotation. Challenging, I'm up for a good challenge.
Right.
So how do we take this challenge head on? How do we have more fun? How do we make more money? How do we have more impact? So changing the perspective, changing the verbiage.
Where it's like,
very easy to fall into that pitfall.
Yeah. And not that we don't want to grind. It's like we were just, like, banging our head against the wall, being like, what are we doing?
Why isn't it working?
Why is it? What's stopping us? What's blocking us? And finally, there was, like, a lot of, like, internal things that we both had to experience to then come together to be like, all right,
here we are.
I think you just hit the nail right on the head. I mean, that is, I had a friend on, and she said, you want to get to know yourself, start a business.
She's right.
She's 1,000% right.
Right? And to your point of, like, what are you doing wrong? Exactly. And the same thing in parenting. I go back to, like, we kind of are toggling between business and parenting, but, like, this idea of it all starts and ends with us. At what price are we willing to pay to go to the next level, to be a better example for the people we serve and or for the family in our home, or just the people watching? You know, there's always people watching, whether that's your family, your friends, just peers, your community. And so it's really just depends on pausing enough, being so willing to do the ugly work. Like, I have not liked a lot of what is mirrored back to me, right? In these sessions, but it's been so powerful and so needed. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, it has literally transformed. And I don't think we ever arrived, right? But, like, I think I had done quite some work.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
But this is, like, real deep inner work, right? It's going to all those areas, raw areas that I had put a Band-Aid on and never really healed them.
Or you didn't even know existed. You said that earlier. Subconsciously, we're really getting to the middle of the onion, right? You've done a good job with the layers, and now you're like, oh, whoa,
we need to get to the core.
What's going on in the core? What's been going on generationally?
I didn't realize that would come up now.
Right.
I thought we tucked that away decades ago.
And as you guys were talking about the work you do right now with the girls, I'm thinking, what would I tell that young girl? What would I tell little Martha?
Mhm.
What would you tell little Jill and little Mary? Right? Like, oh my gosh. I never thought of that. Like that, telling that little girl, hey, this, and this, and this, and all these things that the stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
Still to this day.
100%.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
The stories that were
This
told to us.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right before we pressed record.
I mean, it is so powerful. I think you guys are going to have such a huge impact. I see you guys, like, I don't think you see yourselves, and I know you see yourselves. You guys you're
right.
a force to be reckoned with, but I think the ripple effect. If I knew how strong I was back then, I'm just figuring out in my 40s, right?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't I believe the thing I was told? My parents were very positive and uplifting.
Right.
But it's the battle that we have. It's an internal
Yes,
battle.
it is. And that's the one thing that we teach our kids right off the bat is you have to have the belief in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, you're going to believe everybody else telling you who you are.
When we go back
And
to
then that challenge, you like, that's when you're like wrestling with like, oh, I don't know, maybe I am that.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that strong belief, I mean, your foundation is wobbly.
Well, that's where we go back to that self-awareness piece, because if you're not even aware that those things are being repeated over and over and over again in your brain, or you have like an open ear to your best friend who's negative Nancy, and she's just feeding you, and you don't even know that that's bad, then literally the statistics for friendships in middle school and high school, 1% of friendships remain from 7th grade to 12th grade, right? If you think back to all the friends you had in middle school and high school, some were good, some were bad, some were healthy influences, some were unhealthy influences. I can look back now and be like, that's why my mom didn't like her. Got it. Okay.
How did I not see that?
Because I was having fun and I was doing dumb stuff, and I was listening to those voices because I didn't have the self-awareness or the filter, the value system to be like, that's not for me. That is for me. I'm going to take this breadcrumb and go this way, and I'm not going to go to that party because I have standards for my life. None of that, because there was no self-awareness. So no self-awareness equals no ability to see ourselves in a certain light and filter all of those other things out.
And that still applies to us in our
100%.
adulthood.
I get a lot of questions
what a
for
book.
adult camps. When
I
you're doing
know.
adult
Yeah.
camps, we're like,
I know.
we need to go back to school to get a master's degree, honey.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what would you tell your young self, Jill and Mary? Little Mary, little Jill, what would you tell her?
I would tell little Jill that the sky truly is the limit, and that you're like who you are, the gifts that God gave you, lean into them because it's going to serve you and make you stand out as a leader in your life in whatever you choose to do. Because I was always told, I was compared to my brother a lot, and I grew up similarly in a very positive, encouraging household, but I associated my book smarts with my self-image. My brother was book smart. I was the street smart girl, but that was never looked at as a really shining quality. It was like, you're struggling in school. You can't read. You're not good at math. It was like all of these things that I thought was going to serve me in my life. And now in hindsight, I laugh at Mary and I, like, we look at my kids' math homework at night, and I'm like, when do we ever have to do this ever in our business?
I haven't divided a number in 25 years.
Yeah, or like having a remainder where like we were laughing at it, but now in hindsight, I'm like, who I was back then as a little girl is exactly who I am today as a leader in my business, a leader in my family, a leader in my community. And man, I wish somebody would have nurtured that in me and just really allowed me to lean into that, because now I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I was the street smart kid.
Yeah. Yes. So
in my
good.
family. Yeah.
So good.
Gosh, I would tell her so many things. So many things. Stop seeking validation from people who are outside of you. You have everything you need inside of you. And if you put that focus first, everything is going to work out. No one needs to tell you you're good enough. No one needs to tell you you're pretty enough. No one needs to give you permission to go after that thing. All of those people are going to fall by the wayside anyway, right? A big saying in my life now is people are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And all of those people have taught me lessons. There's only a few lifetimers, really. So it's like, pick the lessons from those people, but don't internalize them. Take what you need and don't seek the external validation when the internal validation is what you need to be focusing on in order to achieve what you want to achieve and get to the places you want to get to without all the fluff, without all the questions, without all the stories. Like, you will get there faster and feeling more whole about yourself if you don't seek that from other people.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think about that just alone right there, how that could change somebody's life, right? And again, in our adulthood and also reflecting into the teen generation, just as because I'm a teen mom right now, I'm like, I get that, you know, and I see these young girls. When I go to the boys' school, and I'm just, you know, sometimes you could just see, you're like, honey, you are so beautiful. Yeah. You don't need to like be showing off your body. Like, you are beautifully made. And do you need that external validation? And it's such inner work. It is. Really just, because parents, I'm sure their parents struggle with it. You know, as a mom, in the mom group, like, we're all in the same battles. We're like, oh, okay, good. I thought I was the only one struggling with, like, you can't remember to, you know, this or that, or did you brush your teeth, or did you turn in your paperwork? And I'm like, are you gonna, you know, my mind goes to all these things, and I have to stop myself. Yeah. Because what am I speaking into the life of my children when I'm like, are you serious? You forgot to do this? Yeah. Right? Like, it's coming from this, like, no, that's not what I want to say or do, but in the moment, you're just so frustrated. But that's what they play in their mind.
I was going to say, what you're speaking out loud becomes their internal voice, and that's a scary notion, right? Because you want to do the best, right? We talked about being a good person. Yes. I meant well. We talk a lot about intention versus impact with our girls. Your intention might have been awesome, but what was the impact? What was the takeaway? How was it received? How did the other person feel about it? And could you have done it differently?
That's so good. Well, and that's the work that I'm working on, like, with my coach. I'm like, I'm doing things that I don't mean to say or do, and then I know, like, you know, this outcome of like, I didn't want that to come out that way, but in my frustration, and I'm like, and I keep reminding myself, the brain is not fully developed, right? Like,
that big old frontal lobe.
They're walking around with that frontal lobe being
undeveloped. It's a scary world out there.
Yeah, it is. I'm like, and you think you're going to college here? I'm like, right? But then they have these other amazing things that I'm just like, he's such a great kid. Yeah. All of my kids are doing amazing, and I'm so proud of them. But we choose to focus on the thing, or the moment, or the moment in time that you just like, really? That's what you thought?
I know, gosh. And then as parents, we just stew on it.
Yes.
The kids are over it, and we're like,
remember
that one time last week, you threw your baseball bat in your helmet? He's like, I forgot about that. I'm like, oh gosh, not me.
I'm hungry. Make me dinner.
Yeah, they've moved on, and we're still like,
stewing and like
the human condition.
I know, always a work.
A work. Well, what would you leave our listeners with in closing? Just what's on your heart to share? It's been a good conversation. I know we could talk probably for like a whole hour.
Look in the mirror. I know that's hard, but I think we all stand a chance to improve ourselves. We all deserve that. And you improving you doesn't just stop with you. You talked about the ripple effect. Like, you improving you improves your friends. You improving you improves your family. You improving you improves your community. We joke that we're only here to raise the group average. And in order to do that, like, we have to continually be working on ourselves, because, like you said, your business skyrocketed when you looked inside. Like, your family's starting to skyrocket when you look inside, and I think people overlook that very easily. So, as hard as a pill as it might be to swallow, look inside. Look at you in the mirror.
Yes. I would say know your worth. Know your worth, whether that is, you listening to this as a business owner, as a parent, as whatever. It's just knowing, it's knowing your worth, and if it is in business, it's putting a value to that.
Yes.
Like, you were chosen for a reason. You have expertise in this field of whatever you're doing for a reason. And if you're still trying to figure out what that means to you, it's exploring and like being so obsessed with discovering more about yourself, to refine, to edit, to then like truly be it. I think we have a fear of like letting go the past selves, like shedding the old versions of us. But like, man, getting uncomfortable and stepping into who you want to be and like really owning your worth is so beautiful, and it impacts everyone.
It does.
I'm impacted by it. You're
Yes.
impacted by it. Our kids are impacted by it. So don't sell yourself short.
I love that. Yeah, I think that value proposition, if
Yeah.
you will, right? When you look at, really, it's not just about me. It's really for the people that I love the most, and the people that are in my circle, my inner circle, my outer circle, right? And the community. And I go back to my faith, and I think what God gave me and entrusted me with, I have to use this and multiply it. That is like,
right?
that is a call. That is a call to action. It is not an option.
And it's written in the Bible. He takes your stuff away if you don't use it.
Correct.
He's like,
Yeah.
what did you do with it? Oh, you buried it? Give it back. That's going to the other guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and you don't want to get years and years later down in your life to look back and regret, like, man, what would I have done if I would have actually done the thing? That is still in my heart today, 40 years ago,
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah. So true. I want to look back and say, like, I am glad. Oh, yeah, I fell there. Oh, I messed up over there. Oh, that was really bad. But I am so glad I did this. I'm
Yeah.
so glad
Yeah.
that I met people. You know, I look back now and I remember thinking, gosh, I needed friends, you know, when I was like at home and with my kids and doing my home business. Like, I had no time.
Right.
And I felt so alone, and I longed for friendships. I longed.
Look at you now.
Well, but that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? Like, the longing for things. It's at the end, we have, with God on our side, we have everything it takes to make those longings happen, the friendships, because then it became an evolution of friendships, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, you know, I need people
Yeah.
lifting me up. I can't. So we
Yeah.
all these iterations of ourselves become the journey,
Right.
and the purpose, and we are using God's talents and multiplying them, because that's what it's, I call it, this is our mandate. And we're reading a book, The Expansion Mandate. Like, we
are.
have to. It's not an option.
It's
ladies.
not.
Like,
It's not.
we are called to do more, be more, and it is just a gift. And that is where the biggest wins happen, doing the uncomfortable expansion. Like, when you think of expansion, like, that's like stretching, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
hey,
Ripping
here,
you
grab
apart.
this, and if you stretch it too much, you might rip. But
Yeah.
hey,
We
you know
gotta
what?
expand.
Oh, we got
we got a sewing kit over here,
Yeah.
right? You get creative
Uh-huh.
around.
All you parents listening,
How
think of
figuring
figuring
it out.
expanders for braces.
Oh,
How does that feel for your kids?
Yeah.
But their smile sure looks real good out there.
Right.
Girl,
The
that was a good
end-
one.
The end result is always worth the journey.
Ugh,
the
The
stretch.
uncomfortable, the stretch.
the breaking, the
breaking.
ripping.
Gosh, that's
Oh.
right exactly where we are. Yeah.
Mic drop. I think we're good.
That was it.
Yeah, that's the tea.
Well, thank you so much for spilling the tea. I have loved just seeing you guys also, I don't want to say become something, but like just getting to your own and like really just own it. I think that's such a beautiful thing to watch and to know what's behind it. It's just an honor. So thank you for the work you're doing for our community. And I am like here on the edge of my seat, just waiting for the amazing things that God will do through you in our community and beautiful women, because women are powerful. We are so strong. And if we only believed in ourselves, you know, that little Mary, that little Jill, that little Martha, the things we learn now, like, oh my gosh, you guys just think about that. So You guys are
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you for being inspirational and aspirational for us too, because we need women like you who have gone through the path and said, "Hey, I found
You
something.
guys can
Come
do
on,
it.
let's
You
go."
guys can do it. Yeah.
So, same.
Because sometimes if we don't believe in ourselves, we got to borrow that belief
Yeah,
from other people.
100%. And that's the power of community. You're like, okay, well, she could do it. Well, I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it.
Yeah.
Let's
And
do
not
this
in
together.
competition. It's
No.
like, thank
Together.
you. Together.
We're weaving this fabric together.
So good, so good. Where can our listeners find you, ladies?
We're very active on the gram. That is Girls Mentorship. No Y's, no Z's, spelled the normal way. Boys Mentorship is also a new Instagram handle that we are gearing up to put all the things on. Same with the dub. So girlsmentorship.com and boysmentorship.com. All the details for summer camp are there. All the details for what we do are there. It's we have a lot of fun online.
Perfect. Well, we'll tag everything. And thank you so much for sharing all that you're doing and spilling the tea with me.
Yay. We appreciate you. Thank you
Love
so
you.
much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode. If you're struggling to find your flow in juggling all the things that go into building and scaling your dreams, while also being present for your family and finding time to take care of you, I want to invite you to join my free 21-day challenge, Tame the Chaos. You'll get my tried and true time management workbook designed to help you become a master at organizing and prioritizing how you spend your time. Plus, I'm going to walk you through a daily exercise that will transform chaos into clarity and keep you on track to creating momentum towards your goals. I personally use this method myself, and it is a vital key to my success over the years. Please visit marthapachow.com/tamethechaos to register for the challenge now and get instant access to the workbook. And if you've enjoyed today's tea, make sure to follow, rate, and leave a review. Stay connected with us on social media at The Tea with Martha for updates and behind-the-scenes moments. Remember, every woman's story is a sip of inspiration, and together we're brewing success. This is Martha signing off. Cheers.